Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to DCM Shriram Limited Q3 and 9 months FY21 earnings conference call. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Siddharth Rangnekar from CDR India. Thank you, and over to you, Mr. Rangnekar.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on DCM Shriram Limited's Quarter 3 and 9M FY21 earnings conference call. Today we have with us Mr. Ajay Shriram, Chairman and Senior Managing Director, Mr. Vikram Shriram, Vice Chairman and Managing Director, Mr. Ajit Shriram, Joint Managing Director, Mr. K.K. Kaul, Whole-Time Director, and Mr. Amit Agarwal, CFO of the company. We will begin the opening remarks from Mr. Ajay Shriram and Mr. Vikram Shriram, following which we will have an interactive question and answer session. Before we begin, please note that some of the statements made on today's call could be forward-looking in nature, and a note to that effect has been included in the conference call invite circulated earlier. I would now like to invite Mr. Ajay Shriram to give us a brief overview on the company's performance and his views going forward. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Siddharth. Good afternoon and a very happy and healthy new year to everybody. Welcome to our earnings conference call for the third quarter of financial year 2021. I hope all of you and your families are keeping safe and healthy. I will share my thoughts on the developments in our businesses and our strategic direction. After that, Vikram will give you the financial perspectives. Our strategic business direction includes enhancing scale along with forward integration, enhancing or rationalizing product portfolio and cost competitiveness, thereby strengthening our businesses. Our strategic initiatives taken in recent years in sugar, chlorovinyl, farm solutions and bioseed businesses have started showing sustained results. Taking further steps in this direction, our board has approved following new projects in the chemicals business at Bharuch, Gujarat, with an investment of approximately 1,000 crores to be implemented over a period of the next 24 months. First product we're getting into is epichlorohydrin or ECH with a capacity of 51,000 tons per annum along with glycerine purification facilities. Second product we're getting into is hydrogen peroxide at a capacity of 52,500 tons per annum. Third product we are expanding is aluminium chloride, anhydrous aluminium chloride. We are going up by 32,850 tons. We are today 60 tons a day. We are adding 90 tons a day, so we will be 150 tons a day. And we are also setting up a multi-purpose product research and development center in Gujarat. These projects are expected to have a return on investment of approximately 25% at optimum capacity levels. ECH and aluminium chloride put together will consume about 21% of the chlorine currently generated at our Bharuch facility complex. The object of these projects is to enter into downstream chemicals linked to chloralkali and forward integrate the businesses. The multipurpose product research and development center will enable adding value to our existing as well as our new products, that is ECH and hydrogen peroxide. It will also set up our base for other value-added chemicals going forward. We believe these steps augur well for augmenting scale, product portfolio and chlorine utilization, thereby strengthening our chemicals business. With respect to our already announced projects, the 120 megawatt new power plant at Bharuch is progressing as per plan. It will help to optimize the cost structures at Bharuch. The decision to implement the 700 tons per day caustic soda plant and 500 tons per day flaker will be taken in due course. We are planning all the above initiatives while ensuring financial prudence and execution capabilities. In terms of our current operations, the company has recorded a healthy operating performance during the quarter and 9 months ending December 2020. All our businesses have shown strong resilience during the pandemic in terms of operations, costs, as well as working capital efficiency. Now I would like to share with you the business-wise developments. Sugar. In the current sugar season, the all-India domestic production is estimated at 30.5 million tons and the demand is expected to be around 26 million tons. There was a delay of 3 months in announcement of export policy of 6 million tons for the current season, which may lead to lower exports. However, it is expected that the season-ending inventory will not be higher than the last season of 10.6 million tons. Government of India has increased the prices at which ethanol will be purchased by OMCs. This will help promote ethanol production and correspondingly blending. It is expected that the ethanol blending in this year will be around 6 to 7% vis-a-vis 5% in the last year. We commenced crushing during the first week of November and have crushed 275 lakh quintals till 20th January 2021 versus 258 lakh quintals in the previous season. Sugar recovery on final molasses basis up to 20th January 2021 for sugar year 21 is at 10.7% vis-a-vis 11.3% last year. We have contracted exports of 12.5 lakh quintals in the new sugar season. Chemicals. Chlor-alkali prices continue to be soft with supply curve moving ahead of demand. International prices are in the range of $250 to $270 per metric ton. We expect domestic demand to pick up gradually. The average utilization in the industry has picked up to approximately 80% in West Zone and 70% in Northern Zone. Caustic soda demand from key consuming sectors such as pulp and paper and textiles has improved up to about 75-80% levels. Our capacity utilization for the quarter is 70% vis-a-vis 78% in Q2 financial year 21. The investments in chemical downstream products will further strengthen the business with improved integration and multiple revenue streams. Plastics. The domestic PVC demand has posted further recovery during Q3 financial year 21. Sequentially, our average capacity utilization in this segment has gone up from 44% in Q1 financial year 21 to 94% in Q2 to 96% in Q3. International PVC prices continue to remain firm, increasing from an average of $925 per metric ton during Q2 to average $1,230 per metric ton during Q3, amid less than expected import arrivals in the country. The domestic prices are showing a similar trend. The new 66 megawatt power plant at Kota has delivered intended cost efficiencies and is facilitating better utilization for the combined production of chlor-alkali and PVC. Agri-inputs. This segment includes our Shriram Farm Solutions, Bioseed and fertilizer business. Agri-inputs demand in the third quarter remained buoyant due to good monsoons, favorable agronomical conditions and timely harvest of Kharif season crop has led to higher sowing during the current Rabi season. Shriram Farm Solutions' own research seeds, especially wheat, continue to strengthen its leadership position. The business continues to focus on new technology agri-inputs with launch of new products. The focus to maximize social media for demand creation and sales promotion is very active. During Q3, all product categories, namely seeds, crop care, and specialty nutrients, witnessed growth. For Bioseed India and Philippines, it is a small season and they delivered stable performance. Fertilizer operations are stable. Revenues were lower due to gas prices, which is a pass-through. During the quarter, the gas prices declined to $7.9 million MMBTU from $10.4 per MMBTU in the previous period. The urea subsidy outstanding has increased from rupees 465 crores in September 20 to 624 crores in December 20. In November 20, the government has announced additional allocation of rupees 65,000 crores for fertilizer subsidy. If implemented timely, this will significantly ease up the working capital deployed and hence the health of this sector. Fenesta. Fenesta performance has been encouraging and improving quarter on quarter. We expect the trend to continue. The sales have now reached near pre-COVID levels. Order booking is higher at 16% year-on-year and 6% quarter-on-quarter. The business is focusing on UPVC as well as system aluminium and is looking forward to enhance its product portfolio. The brand retains its premium market positioning and is using digital media to expand its reach and product awareness. I must mention, ladies and gentlemen, that the company is focusing on sustainability, environment, and governance in a very strong manner. I'm happy to share that Business World did a survey of the top 100 companies of India, and our company was ranked 24th on an all-India basis on the sustainability scale. That was very encouraging for us. With this, I would like to now request Vikram to take you through our perspectives on the financial performance.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I will take you through financial highlights for our Q3 and 9-month financial 21 results. Net revenues during the quarter came in at rupees 2,159 crores versus 2,159 crores in Q3 financial year 20. The performance during the quarter was driven by healthy growth in domestic sugar and distillery business, vinyl business, and led by PVC prices and volumes, and Shriram Farm Solutions led by higher volumes in value-added segments. However, chemical prices and lower sugar exports impacted the growth in revenue. Chloro-vinyl business saw improved utilization levels sequentially. Our Fenesta continues to witness healthy recovery after the pandemic. Overall sugar business revenues were down 14% year-on-year. Domestic sugar sales were at 13.5 lakh quintals versus 12.6 lakh quintals. However, export sales were nil versus 7.6 lakh quintals in the same period last year. This was owing to late announcement of export policy. Distillery volumes were higher by 148% year-on-year at 321 lakh litres, adding about 100 crores to revenue. Out of this, 79 crores was on account of the second 200 KLD distillery commissioned in Q3 financial year 22. In the chemicals business, revenues declined 13% year-on-year due to lower ECU prices. Prices were lower by 21% year-on-year and 7% sequentially. Lower prices had a negative impact of approximately rupees 50 crores year-on-year. Volumes for the quarter remained flat. Plastics business recorded 41% growth in revenues on a year-on-year basis at rupees 207 crores, driven by PVC volumes and prices. PVC prices were up 49% year-on-year and volumes up 11% year-on-year. Sequentially, the prices were up 32%. SFS value-added product businesses revenues were up 28% year-on-year, driven by product categories across value-added verticals, primarily seeds. Bioseed revenues were up 10% year-on-year, driven by higher paddy sales in domestic operations and corn in Philippines. Fenesta business revenues remained flat on a year-on-year basis due to the setback in the first quarter. Sequentially, however, revenues were up 70%, led by volumes. The order book had a strong improvement of 16% year-on-year, a positive sign for this business. Coming to PBDIT, Q3 financial year 21 stood at rupees 421 crores, higher by 30% year-on-year, supported by the sugar, plastics, SFS, and fertilizer segments. Sugar PBDIT, excluding inventory valuation charge of rupees 18 crores, was up 16% year-on-year at rupees 135 crores, driven by distillery earnings. This inventory valuation charge will be reversed as the season progresses and be absorbed into the inventory value in due course. PBDIT for the chemical segment was down by 21% year-on-year at rupees 98 crores due to lower ECU. Plastics PBDIT stood at rupees 101 crores versus rupees 30 crores, driven by higher PVC prices and volume. Earnings were aided by lower power and fuel costs, supplemented by savings as a result of the efficient new 66 megawatt power plant commissioned in Q4 financial year 20. Shriram Farm Solutions PBDIT was up 24% year-on-year at rupees 78 crores, driven by seed volumes. Enhanced focus on value-added segment is yielding sustained profitability in this segment. Fertilizer PBDIT stood at rupees 39 crores versus rupees 17 crores. Current quarter includes about rupees 20 crores on account of price notifications received in Q3 financial year 21 relating to financial year 18 and 19. Let me also share some highlights for the performance for 9 months financial year 21. The revenues were up 5% year-on-year at rupees 6,118 crores, mainly driven by sugar, SFS, and PVC segments. Sugar business was driven by sugar and distillery volumes. Sugar volumes up by 25% year-on-year at 54.5 lakh quintals. Distillery volumes up 1% year-on-year at 940 lakh liters. PVC performance was driven by prices, and SFS performance resulted from growth across verticals, value-added verticals. PBDIT climbed by 9% year-on-year to rupees 853 crores, again due to the setback in the first quarter primarily as a result of the lower earnings of chemicals business led by lower prices and volumes, and in Fenesta led by volumes in the first quarter. On the balance sheet side, net debt as at 31st December 2020 stood at rupees 385 crores versus 971 crores as on 31st December 2019 and 242 crores as on 30th September 2020. Cash generation remained healthy with adequate liquidity. A majority banking line remained unutilized. ROCE came in at a healthy 17.1% from 15.1% in December 2020. ROCE improved quarter-on-quarter with better performance in vinyl, sugar, and SFS businesses. On the whole, we are at a healthy balance sheet position with steady liquidity position at all times. Given our operating cash generation and surplus funds, we will be able to fund the newly announced 1,000 crore expansion largely from internal accruals. If required, our balance sheet has the strength to enable us to raise adequate amounts of debt. This brings me to the end of the financial discussion, and we will be happy to take questions that you may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Just before we go into the questions, this is Ajit Sriram here. I just want to clarify that in the chemicals business, our capacity utilization is 80% this year versus 78% last year. It was, by mistake, it was mentioned as 70% this year. So I want to clarify it's 80% versus 78% last year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Rohit Nagraj from Sunidhi Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity and congrats on good set of numbers. So the first question is on the chlorine consumption. So we have announced the new capex for downstream products and our requirement for, or rather consumption, captive consumption of chlorine will go up. So after the expansion, what would be the captive consumption? I understood you mentioned 21%. Was that for the entire unit that is existing plus incrementally? That's my first question. Thank you.
No, I think, you see, we are today, our chlorine consumption, we are supplying by pipeline supply to 5-6 direct buyers, which is connected directly to our factory on a pipeline. That is taking approximately, about, how many percent?
Around 35 to 40% is supplied by pipeline.
40% of our production. Already, that's already going directly. Over and above, products which are going to come in will take another 21% of our production. So that will then mean about 60-65% of our production will be consumed directly and will not have to be sold in the market in tonners. It's going to be a change that way.
Right, that's helpful. So the second question is in terms of new expansion plan. So I believe that there are other players who are also trying to get into downstream products of chloralkali, epichlorohydrin, hydrogen peroxide. So what is the rationale behind this? I understand chlorine consumption would be one part, but beyond that, is it going to be import substitute or the domestic demand is so strong that we are entering into this business? Thank you.
See, ECH today, there is no one in India. There's one more plant which is coming up and there'll be ourselves. There'll be only 2. India is importing the entire requirement of ECH. So that is something which we thought makes sense considering it adds value to our chlorine business straight away. Hydrogen peroxide, yes, there are 5-6 players already, but that's a good growing market and there are many grades of hydrogen peroxide also which are used by various consumers. So there is an adequate market in this and we also have again captive hydrogen. So that gives us the benefits of having the raw material available for both these products directly within our own complex. So we have a competitive advantage on that.
Thank you. And if I can just squeeze a little question. On soda, caustic soda, what is our understanding how it will fare during this year? Because I think we are at the trough of the cycle. So what is our expectation for the next year? Thank you.
You know, for any commodity business, we've seen a couple of years ago, if you recollect, caustic soda was booming. It was exceedingly high. Now it's come down. Plastics are moving well just now. But I think seeing the economic growth expected in India also over the next year or 2 years, our feeling is that after another maybe 2 quarters, we should come up to a more satisfactory pricing for our ECU of chloralkali, of caustic soda chlorine.
I just like to add. Could I add to that, Vikram Sriram here, that actually caustic and chlorine are co-products when you manufacture them. So typically in the world markets in the long run, PVC and caustic soda are counter-cyclical. So when PVC is strong, caustic soda tends to be soft and vice versa. I'm making a general statement, but that is the trend. So you have to keep that in mind that the strong PVC also has an influence on soft caustic.
Right, sir. That's helpful and best of luck, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Pratiksha Daftari from Equitas Investment Consultancy. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. So, the capex that we've announced, 1,000 crores, would it be possible to give bifurcation that how much of this will be allocated for ECH and how much for hydrogen peroxide? And what kind of revenue potential do we see for these products once the capacity, like once we reach optimum capacity?
Amit, can you do that?
So for ECH, our expenditure will be in the range of around 400 to 450 crores. That is epichlorohydrin. For hydrogen peroxide, also it's around 400 crores. And in terms of capital output ratio, I think we are investing 1,000 crores. It should add close to about 1,100 to 1,200 crores to our revenue.
And what kind of margin profile can we expect for, like, how does that compare to our existing margins in the chemical division?
So they should be in line with our existing margins in our chemicals business. So the EBITDA margin should be in the range of around 25 to 30%. But these are, they're all sensitive to prices, but that's what we expect in the medium term, that kind of margin we should earn.
Okay. And would we know what is the quantum that is getting imported, like for ECH right now?
Yeah, so ECH currently is 100% imported.
But like how many tons, if that data is available?
About 70 KTPA. Kilotons per annum is the current demand in the country, which largely gets imported.
Okay. And so you've mentioned that the power cost, lower power cost has helped our margins and kind of offsetted the low prices in caustic. Would it be possible to quantify that how much power costs have come down because of our latest capacity power addition?
See, that number would be anywhere. See, it depends on how much we produce, because we have not been operating to our optimal capacity right now, given the factors. But yeah, I think it will be in the range of around 20 crores, 15 to 20 crores per quarter is the kind of saving we are having because of the new power plant vis-a-vis last year.
Okay. And I think this was covered a little earlier. I just want to confirm this, but we are seeing a lot of capacity addition coming up in caustic in next few months. So how do we see this impacting? We are already mentioning that supply curve is moving ahead of demand curve growth. So how do you expect this to pan out, say, in next 12 months?
See, I think if you see, caustic soda is as a commodity. When the prices move, there's always an addition which comes in as a bit of a bump. But that's why we've actually decided not to invest our 700 crores expansion right now. We'll take that up after a couple of quarters, depending on how the market situation is. And we'd rather prioritize our capital investments on the value-added products rather than this. And the focus always of us is how do we improve our efficiencies, how do we become the lowest cost producer, and how do we ensure that we are competitive on a world scale in terms of our cost of production.
Okay. And my next question is with respect to Fenesta. So if you could, elaborate a little bit on what kind of initiatives we are working on, or growth drivers that we are working on, or we see in this business, say, in medium term?
We are working, expanding our product range. This is Vikram Shriram here.
Yeah.
We are working on expanding our product range both in PVC segment and in aluminium segment to bring different price points products available to enlarge the market to go down the pyramid. Secondly, we are working on geographical expansion, including deeper penetration in tier 2 cities. We are already in 200 cities and towns. We have reached Ladakh, we have reached Bhutan, we have reached Srinagar, we have reached end-to-end actually. And working on looking at some adjacent countries for export market.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Pratik Thulia from Elara Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. And congratulations on a very good set of numbers.
Mr. Thulia, if you can move to handset mode, please. Your voice is not clear.
So is it better now?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for the opportunity and congratulations on a very good set of numbers considering the current business environment. Sir, I have just a couple of questions. Firstly, sir, on the, I don't know whether you had mentioned this in the opening remarks, but on the slide of prices. Hello?
I'm sorry, I cannot understand what you're saying.
Sir, I'm saying that the imported caustic soda prices and the domestic DCM Shriram prices that is shown on the slide of your presentation. So the international prices moved up during the quarter, but our prices actually trended downwards. Sir, is it possible to just explain the disparity in the two directions of the prices?
I've not followed the question. Amit, can you reply if you've understood?
Yeah, sure. Prateek, see here you need to understand that there can be a lag, right? So if you see that chart that we have given in our presentation, you see last 1-2 years that we have given. So there are times when there is a lag, right? So we have also seen, we saw a low of around 18,500 in December. So from that level, the prices have firmed up in line with the firming of international prices. But what we are still saying is that prices still are subdued. Even if we are at around 19,000, 19,500, the prices still are subdued.
Okay. So currently, what will be the prices? It will be upwards of 20,000?
No, as I said, they will be in the range. They are still range bound. They are still subdued. So they will be in the range of around 19,000 to 20,000. I don't have the exact number, but that will be the range.
Okay. But you believe that these prices can catch national prices, right? With a lag?
Yes.
I think I'll just add that more important is once the consuming industries in India pick up better, like the textile industry, paper industry, etc., once they start moving up, automatically demand will go up, which will make a difference.
Sure. Understood. And so secondly, Amit, just in the slide you mentioned there is some inventory devaluation in the sugar business. So can you explain what is this inventory devaluation?
Well, this happens almost, or I would say every time in December, right? Where when you start your production, your recovery is low, right? Therefore, your cost of sugar is high, right? Whatever you are producing, at times vis-a-vis the market price. So to that extent, you have to take inventory mark to market, and by the time you reach March, when your recoveries are better, because recoveries keep improving, so you get the best recoveries in these 3 months, that is January to March. So if your cost of production balances out, and therefore this 18 crores more or less will get reversed. Hopefully, if the prices remain the way they are, the value should get reversed by Q4. So it's only a timing difference as long as the prices remain the way they are.
Sure. So any update on the MSP announcement of 33 rupees? Any update on that?
Not really. We are talking to the government on a continuous basis. This is Ajit Shriram here. But there's been the talk of the MSP increase has been carrying on since June 20, but it's not really taken off. We do hope that it's announced in the near future.
Okay. And this is lastly one clarification again. So you said that at Bharuch your a captive capacity utilization of chlorine would be around 65%, but at Kota it will be only 20-25% which goes in PVC. Is that understanding correct?
No, in Kota the percentage of chlorine going into PVC is what percentage?
It's around 35%. 35%.
About 35%. In Kota, it's about 35% goes into PVC.
Okay, and remaining 65% is sold in open market.
And 65%, as I said, is including pipeline supplies to outside parties. It's not captive per se, but it is to outside parties also who are buying it directly on pipeline because they are right adjacent around our factory complex. So we have 5-6 direct buyers through pipeline. So that's also like a fixed contract where they pick up every day their requirements. So they are working on a just-in-time philosophy of getting the raw material when they need it.
Sure. Understood.
That's very helpful. So lastly, since now even after this CapEx, we still have 35-40% of our chlorine still left to be, which will be exposed to the spot market. So any thoughts of, further going downstream, because you said that you're doing some R&D setup, you'll be setting up some R&D facility. So is there any thought of, going totally, 100% of it will become internally consumed, maybe 2-3 years down the line once the R&D team sets up something new project?
So we have to take these things gradually. We've just announced a capacity of additions by which we're going to take over 20% more for our captive consumption. And just for your clarity, the Research and Development Center is for value added further from various products. So it is not going to be a direct for caustic consumption, chlorine consumption. It is to value add down the line into epoxies and further other products which are value added from epichlorohydrin and other products. It's not only for chlorine consumption. We are looking at a much longer chain for value addition down the line.
Though directionally, yes, there would be additional value add chemicals in due course of chlorine also. But it will never be.
At the moment, our 24 months is now planned of these two plants coming in and expanding of aluminium chloride is to consume chlorine for the next 24 months through these plants.
Got it. Thank you so much, sir. Very helpful and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we take the next question, a reminder to the participant. In order to ensure that the management is able to address questions from all participants, we would request each participant to please limit their questions to 2 per participant. Should you have any follow-up, request you to rejoin the queue, please. The next question is from the line of Tejas Sheth from Nippon India Asset Management. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, gentlemen. 2 questions. One, will the 1,000 crore of investment, the recently announced, will have any implication on the capex for caustic soda? Will it be deferred because we are now investing 1,000 crore or prioritizing 1,000 crore in chemical downstream products? That's first question. Second, is there any more scope of investment towards sugar segment where we can generate more return? These are the 2 questions.
On the caustic soda one, we've consciously taken a decision about 6-7 months ago to push back the 700 tons per day expansion, which was approved by the board 1.5 years back, because of the market and because of the corona and the way markets are going. So we've now taken a decision it is better to invest in value added straight away. The 700 tons per day expansion is very much on our horizon. We'll take that up at the appropriate time after review. We are reviewing it every quarter. So whenever we think it's appropriate, we'll take that up. That will definitely happen. And as on the sugar, you were saying, we actually are continuously looking to see what we can expand where, what capacity can come up. As you are aware, we're already putting up alcohol, a country liquor plant to use ethanol, to use rectified spirits for value addition down the line at our sugar factory. That's an ongoing project which should be commissioned in the next 2 months. So that is something which is being expanded in any case. And as you are aware, our distillery, second distillery of 200,000 kiloliters per day, just came up about a year ago. So we are on continuous expansion mode in all our businesses, and we take a decision appropriately at the right time.
Okay.
Just to clarify, the balance sheet is not the constraint.
Okay.
No. You know, our expectation is that by March 21, our debt equity will be about 0.2 or 0.25. So we are very comfortable.
Okay. So balance sheet will never be a constraint for you deciding to go ahead with the caustic investment, even if, let's say, if the segment volume improves or pricing improves in next 3 to 4 months, you will still go ahead with that project.
Yes. Correct.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
So if any opportunity comes for capacity expansion or multi-feed or anything else, balance sheet is not the constraint.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Karthik from Unifi Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello. So thank you for taking my question. Sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
So you mentioned some inventory revaluation of 20 crores that has taken because of mark to market. Could you explain more on the front of what exactly happened there?
Amit?
So Karthik, here it is a result of when the season starts, the recovery improves as the season progresses. The sugar recovery from the sugar cane. So initially, like we are 2 months into the season, the recovery is a little low than what it will be for the entire season. So initially, the cost of sugar production is high, and if that cost is higher than your selling price, then you need to take a mark to market. So we manufactured close to about 16 or 17 lakh quintals. Out of that, for 7 lakh quintals, depending on which unit we manufactured, about 7.5 lakh quintals, the cost was higher price, and therefore we took a mark to market on that. Now, as the season progresses, the recovery improves, and overall cost of production on the entire inventory will come down as the recovery improves. And therefore, I was mentioning in the previous question also that if the prices remain the way they are, we should be able to get this, whatever we have provided, we will be able to take the credit back.
Sure, Amit. Thank you for the clarification. So you're saying the recovery rate from 10.7 is going to go upwards for this quarter and next quarter?
Yes, for Q4, it's going to go up. It improves. I mean, that's how the sugar works.
Sure. Just one on the ethanol front. So the realizations for the SY 21, sugar year 21, would it start kicking in from this quarter? The B-heavy and C-heavy increase in the government price?
Yeah, because the new rate which was announced by the government was applicable from 1st of December. So that's why you're seeing a lower average, 54 or something. As we move for this quarter, we should see in line with the increased prices.
Sure. And our overall target for B-heavy was 60% for the crore liters of ethanol, right? But we seem like in 9 months, we have done only around 50%. So are we expecting a higher mix for this quarter?
So see, yes, this quarter will be higher mix, but for the year as a whole, it will be heavy this year. So our output of B-heavy will be, much higher than the previous year, and our target will be to divert roughly 7.6 lakh quintals of sugar equivalent to B-heavy versus 4.5 lakhs last year.
Sure. Thank you. Just one on the PVC front. We have an overall capacity. What's the exact capacity right now here? Because we have 40 TPD that was added in Q3 FY20, right?
Yeah, today our capacity is 220 tons a day.
Sure, sir. Thank you, and I'll come back on this.
Okay.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Saket Kapoor from Kapoor Company. Please go ahead.
Dhanyawad, sir, for the opportunity. Sir, firstly, if you could again dwell on the inverse correlation between the PVC and the caustic soda part, sir. If you could explain something more about. Hello.
I'll explain it to you.
Hello.
Basically, caustic and chlorine are co-products when you electrolyze brine. Both the products are produced along with hydrogen. So when PVC is strong, the chlorine pull increases the caustic production also. So if the caustic users are not strong at that point in time, caustic tends to soften. Because caustic users are aluminium, paper, dyes, chemicals, etc. And the biggest 60% of the chlorine user worldwide is PVC, followed by epichlorohydrin. So basically, the point I'm making is that in the long run, caustic and PVC are counter-cyclical. And unless both engines are firing, which does happen, but happens very seldom that you've got both sides going at full blast. So sometimes you have PVC soft and caustic strong, and sometimes vice versa.
Right. And sir, this application, the value addition venture which we are doing now, the investment in ECH, so that's also find application mainly in the paper industry. Which industry does it caters to?
ECH actually is utilized as a raw material for a large part of it goes into epoxy resins. That's a very large consuming segment of ECH. Plus there are other refuses where ECH is further processed or chemically treated to get into different products. But epoxy is the largest use of ECH in the country today.
And what are they used into, sir? What are exactly epoxy resins, sir? When do they define?
It goes into paints, it goes into varnishes, it goes into flooring, into many, many different products where you want a finish of a particular type. Gives it that shine, gives it the resistance, gives it the scratch-proof surface. So it's a very versatile product which is used very extensively in many industries.
Right.
Worldwide, the single largest use for epoxy is in wind turbine blades, just for your information. So that is also a very growing, strong segment.
Okay, sir.
For green energy production. The blades are coated with epoxy for the unique properties of epoxy, of strength and resistance to abrasion and other things.
Okay. Right, sir. Sir, you spoke about the country leaguer segment part also, sir. So what kind of revenues are we expecting, and when would that going to get into the PNL?
Ajit, you want to?
I see the revenues, the net revenues from that would not be very high, right? It should be in the range of around 25 crores. So, that's the kind of revenue. And see, essentially that country liquor is a project that we are putting up essentially to use the mandatory diversion that we have to do to country liquor for that molasses that we produce. There is a statutory requirement that we have to divert 18% of the molasses to country liquor. Instead of selling it as molasses to country liquor manufacturers, we are putting up ourselves. So it's a small capacity, adding about 20-25 crores.
Annually.
And we have to sell that at a loss. We have to sell it at less than half the market price.
Yeah.
That's the mandated UP government regulation.
Right, sir. Sir, I just come to the last point for my side is what are the other cost lowering of cost initiatives that we are emphasizing? Sir, the power cost has come into the reduction in the power cost have come into play now, and this is going to be a permanent reduction. The savings which we have done that should refigure what the power cost used to be earlier. And other than that, sir, what are the other initiatives that we are taking on this sustainability and on this issue going forward, sir? Where are the key changes? And sir, the margins which we have seen in the PVC segment, although you have articulated that it is the demand pull that has happened, how sustainable are these, sir, these numbers, the margin numbers going forward, sir? And how have been the scenario for this month?
First, in terms of what you're saying of the cost reduction, that's an ongoing exercise which comes across in our raw material costs, in our plant efficiencies, in our operations, in our logistics thereafter, after we sell the product to the customer. How do we move through dealers or directly to customers? So it's an ongoing activity on 10 different fronts. Power is a large part of it, which we've already implemented, a 66 megawatt new plant commissioned just about October last year at Kota. We are commissioning the new 120 megawatt plant in Gujarat, which will be commissioned by Q of this coming financial year. So in this, we will automatically get a lot of efficiency improvements in power generation, which will help us across the board. So it's an ongoing exercise. We are making sure that our membranes are changed on time, our salt quality is improved. There are 20 things you have to do to improve efficiencies and reduce costs. So that's an ongoing exercise. What was the second question?
My question was regarding this PVC margins factors also, sir. What is attributing to these these high margins.
As you are aware, that the market pull and the international prices have gone up substantially. So that is why we are getting the benefit of a better price in India for PVC. And these are commodities. So moving up and down is part of the commodity business cycle. That happens in every commodity all the time. So we are lucky that the price is moving well right now, and let's hope it lasts for some time.
Okay, sir. And lastly, sir, on this caustic prices, Amit sir, you told the prices are in the region of 19,000. Sir, but our channel check says that, if correct me, sir, the prices have been 28, 26 rupees per kilo, and the prices have risen over the month of December to Jan. So
what is the number you quoted?
Sir, I am just referring to one of the channel checks in the chemical segment, which state the prices are currently quoting 28 rupees per kilo.
I think then I'll check with you where they're quoting.
That could be including trade, textiles.
I would suggest, if you could, Saket, please find out where it is and please tell us who's the customer. We also want to get in touch with that customer who is willing to buy at 26 rupees a kilo.
Sir, yes,
so we'd be really grateful to you if you could please tell us that. Yeah.
I just wanted that whether there should be a gap there, sir. 19 rupees and 28 cannot. You are more closer to the ground than the report, because the report is only putting a price. You are selling and dealing in the product. So that was my point. I was just trying to understand where is the gap exactly. I will share the report.
I was saying on a lighter vein, but I was just mentioning that the prices which have been indicated somewhere, we've not heard of that, nor is it available in the marketplace where we are selling our product. So the prices today are in the range of 19 to 20,000 rupees a ton, and we are hoping in the next couple of quarters it inches up.
I just like to clarify, the interpretation of prices for us is the net realization we get at the factory gate. GST, freight, other handling charges to the customer are extra. Whereas what you are probably taking is the landed price at the customer 200-400 kilometers away.
Could be.
So that include GST, include freight, include handling charges, include dealer commission. So there is bound to be a gap between landed cost at the customer for any product and XWR. Whenever we report prices, we report XWR. And this is common across products, whether it's PVC, sugar, caustic, or anything else.
Sir, what have been the chlorine prices? I
sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, definitely, sir. I got your point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question is from the line of Ramakrishnan from DSP Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Sir, good afternoon. This is Vivek here, and delighted to hear CapEx and balance sheet stability in the same breath. So in line with that, let me just ask my two sets of questions. One is on the balance sheet. In terms of the Bharuch CapEx and the 1,000 crore that you have announced and your nominal CapEx, how much of the CapEx did you see over the next 2 years in total? The Bharuch something is left over. And in relation to that is the working capital CapEx. Is there any sign from the government that the fertilizer subsidy will come in the current quarter? Because without that, your balance sheet would have been even stronger. So that's question number one. I think question number two is related to what everybody has asked till now. Perhaps in the next presentation, or if you could give us this data even now, how stable are the prices and demand for ECH, aluminum chloride and hydrogen peroxide over the chlorine prices, which are very volatile, which we know, would be very useful for us to know how stable your margins will be, let's say, 2 years from now. Thank you.
Amit, you want to answer the first one at least?
Yeah. So your first question, if you could just repeat your first question.
Okay, sorry, that was long. So in terms of the CapEx, you have 1,000 crores for the new CapEx and you have Bharuch. So how much is left to be spent on Bharuch, and what is your normal annual CapEx for maintenance of your plants and so on?
Yeah. So see, over next 2 years, right now, this CapEx of 1,000 crores, and we have a CapEx of around 450 crores for the power plant at Bharuch. So that adds up to around 1,450 crores, which goes into the committed CapEx that we have. Right, and then our normal CapEx will be in the range of around 100 to 150 crores per year. So that makes up, let's say, 250 crores. So put together, we're talking about 1,600 to 1,700 crores kind of a capex, including normal capex for next 2 years.
Okay, excellent. The second was on fertilizer subsidy. In terms of the fact that if not for that, your balance sheet would look even stronger. Any, you had announced that you said that the government has announced increased subsidy. Any sign of when they will make the payment?
KK, can you answer that? KK?
Yeah, we expect bulk of our payment to come in the month of January because we understand the Finance Ministry has allowed the Ministry of Fertilizer to spend a significant portion of allocation which they have made. And we expect further payments in the month of February and March also. So hopefully, based on the latest information that we have in terms of allocations made by the Finance Ministry, almost the entire outstanding should get cleared, at least to the extent of December bills and the January bills.
That's great news. Sir, the last one was on in terms of the stability of aluminum chloride, your downstream chemical prices vis-a-vis that of chlorine. How stable are they and how stable is the demand?
I think the prices of all these products, ECH, H2O2, aluminum chloride, they also fluctuate like any other product. We've seen the prices over the last 10 years, and it does move in a range of 20-25% plus minus. That's part of, I think, any product. So I think, again, the issue comes in is that we are in the business for the long term and the long haul, not for the short term. And we have the captive availability of chlorine, captive availability of hydrogen. We don't have transport cost of freight, etc., to move these products around. And we are going in for the best technology. So we will be competitive down the line. It's difficult to predict how stable the selling prices of these products will be down the line. Once we come into the market, we'll then have a better idea how the prices move. But as a business, when we evaluated these as an investment opportunity, considering our strengths of existing businesses we are in, as well as of the strengths we have in our chemical business today, we think it's worthwhile getting into these two products right now.
Sure, sir. It does make sense for us also. Is the demand more stable in the sense that the volatility in demand, is it steady? Or is that also, I can imagine price fluctuation.
Let me put it this way, for both these products, the demand is growing steadily at about 3-4% a year worldwide. So that is the sort of a situation we've seen over the last many years.
Excellent.
The demand is actually growing faster than chlorine or caustic for both the products, worldwide and in India.
But that's great, sir. Thank you very much and wish you good luck.
Amit, you wanted to say something?
I was just trying to add in India, the ECH demand is growing at about 10%, though globally it is growing at about 4%. And if we talk of H2O2 also growing about 6%, global is probably about 3%. So I think it's pretty favorable in that context.
Okay.
Perfect, sir. Thank you. Good luck, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Anand Jain, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity and congratulations on a great set of numbers, sir.
Thank you.
My first question is on the international sugar prices. I think they are kind of at like 4-5 year highs now. Probably if I were to look at IC prices, they're around 32-33 rupees converted into INR. So do you think that exports today makes much more sense to us than the domestic sales? And what kind of government support do we get on exports?
So currently, you're right, the international prices have firmed up. And unfortunately, the government announced the export policy for the current sugar year only in December. So the people actually began to contract very late. Our contracts also have taken place in January. And we do hope that the government wants 6 million tons of export to happen. And we do hope that the entire quantity will be exported. And the government is giving a support of roughly 6 rupees per kilo or 6,000 rupees per ton as support for export in terms of transportation and marketing charges.
So would it be fair to have that export price would actually today fetch us far more profitability than our domestic sales? Is that a fair understanding?
It depends. It really depends, Anand, as to when you've done the export. we contracted our exports at roughly 14.5 cents, which translate to roughly 31 rupees in the 31 rupees per kilo ex-works, including all the subsidies.
So we have contracted all our quantity that we are supposed to export?
Yes. We contracted all quantities, and we hope to fulfill our entire export obligation within the next 3 or 4 months.
So this 31 compares to what last year?
Roughly similar last year.
Oh, okay. So we are not going to have any advantage of this price firming up.
Because last year the government support was 10 rupees 40 paisa.
Oh, okay.
And this year 6 rupees.
Okay, great. So I think that's that helps a lot. The second thing is in the ECU. Can you give us a breakup of chlorine realization? Has it been negative, positive, chlorine and caustic soda breakup?
Just one sec, Anand. Amit, you were saying something on the exports?
No, I was just trying to say that when we look at exports, we also need to take into account that even at 31 rupees, this is not including the inventory holding cost. If we don't export, this inventory sits with us for another year. So therefore, that's a big advantage that one needs to take into account when comparing export prices versus the prices.
Yeah, I get it. Now, I mean, at least there's some advantage there.
Amit, can you give the breakup of ECU, caustic soda, chlorine?
So all I can say is the chlorine is positive even now. So the prices do keep changing, but then chlorine is positive right now.
So positive, like, we have seen variance of, -6 to maybe like +8 kind of a thing. So when you say positive, it's like 1, 2, 3.
So as I said, for last 9 months, it has been positive.
Okay.
Throughout. So we have not seen a negative number in chlorine this year.
Okay. The next thing for me is on H2O2. We have given ECH imports as 70,000 tons, and we are coming up with significant quantities in ECH, 55,000 tons. Can you give us more data on H2O2? What is the current capacity in India, and does H2O2 get imported? If you can give in more details around H2O2, that also would be beneficial.
Yeah,
well, I'll just clarify, the 70,000 tons mentioned was for ECH, not for H2O2.
Right. That is, I'm asking similar details for H2O2.
H2O2, I don't know if anyone has that right now.
Yeah. So H2O2, the total demand in the country is about 176 kilotons per annum, right? And about 18%, 20% is imported right now.
Okay. And the current players who make H2O2 in India, are they integrated with chlorine, like chlorine complex like we have?
Yeah, so some of them would be.
Grasim, is Grasim doing it, or is any of these large guys?
Some of them like JCL and Grasim would be, but then there are others like National Peroxide, which is not integrated on hydrogen.
Okay.
JCL, Make Money, and Sanmar, they are all integrated with chlorine.
Oh, and they all do H2O2?
They all do H2O2.
Okay.
But there is significant capacity which is not integrated also.
Oh, okay.
There are two players who are not integrated.
National Peroxide and Indian Peroxide is not integrated. They make hydrogen from natural gas.
I think that's it from my side, sir. Thanks for your responses.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rahul Veera from Abacus Asset Management. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. Just a quick question.
Afternoon.
Sir, I believe the breakup that we gave for the capex for hydrogen peroxide, we given 52,000 tons for 400 crores. Was that correct?
Yeah, approximately 400 crores. 51,000 tons per annum.
Okay. So because one of our competitors, they are doing 60,000 tons with a capex of approximately 150 crores. That's what they're given. So just wondering, our cost is coming to around 3x.
Probably I can connect with you offline to understand this.
Sure. Fair point, sir. That's it from my end, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Achal Lohade from JM Financial. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. Just wanted to check, sir, in terms of the PVC products, PVC resins, what is the total imports in India, and have they seen any reduction, or it continues to grow? What is the underlying demand? I'm just trying to assess that, sir.
Okay.
Currently, the domestic, we produce about 1.4 lakh tons. That's from the domestic production. The consumption is
1.4 million tons. Yeah. 1.4 million tons.
1.4 lakh tons per month.
Per month. Okay.
Per month. And the import is about 1.2 lakh tons per month. So total, the consumption is about 2.6 lakh tons per month. I'm talking about this last Q3. But normally, if you compare it with the previous quarter, it used to be about 2.8. So there's a drop in consumption, a slightly drop in consumption per month from 2.8 to 2.6. So roughly, you can say about half and half. Half is imported, half is the domestic production.
Right. And you're saying that compared to 3Q FY20, the volume would have seen a reduction broadly?
Yes. If you see for the 9 months period, there's a reduction of almost 21% over the last 9 months. And currently, even the month-on-month also, if you see, there's a reduction. It's still not come up to the full consumption.
Okay. And the reduction is even for the domestic as well as for imports. Or domestic is, given the price increase, the domestic is at 100% while the imports have reduced. Is that a fair?
Imports, that's right. Domestic producers are producing at the maximum rate, and the imports have reduced.
Right. And how much of that would be going into plastic pipes according to your estimate, sir? Would that be 70% of this?
Little over 60% goes for the pipe manufacturing.
Right. And that would have been steady or if not increased, while the others would have reduced. Would that be right?
Difficult to say because prices are high. Some of those which have alternative things, that consumption doesn't come up. And there was a little reduction in the pipes consumption also because there are alternate materials from where the pipes can be made in comparison to PVC. So they would tend to go if the prices are very high. They tend to go down.
And in terms of the price, what is our assessment in terms of what has driven this global price increase, and are you looking at any correction in next a month or two, or it's going to be a little more longer term for prices to soften?
It's largely been up because of a demand-supply mismatch. So right now we see a little bit of softening happening. So we can't predict how it's going to go in future because if the demands go down or the production goes up, largely after the Chinese holidays are over. So maybe there could be some more softening, but we do see now it's softened a bit in the last few days.
It softened a bit. Would that be like 10% or 15-20%?
See, for example, last month we had seen offerings from imported offerings coming at around $1,400 and about $1,350. But last offering now has been almost $1,320. So it's softened by already about $30.
Sorry, I didn't get the last price. You said
$1,320.
$1,320. Okay. That's a $30 reduction. You said.
That's right.
Oh,
and just add that in the last 3-4 months, the major factors that have influenced the global demand supply has been outages of plants in U.S. Gulf because of their hurricane season and some mishaps in Taiwan, etc. Gradually, those plants have come on stream. At the same time, the demand has been very strong because of U.S. and European housing demand and China's housing demand.
Interesting. Okay, understood. So demand is going up, supply is also going up, but the demand is also going up. As a result, prices are pretty much firm. There is a little bit of softening. And just one more thing on the sugar sector, in terms of capacity addition, do you see an opportunity to add more distillation capacity given the push by the government in terms of the incentives on the capacity, the interest subvention?
What we're looking at is debottlenecking our distilleries, and also we're exploring the option of making them multi-feed in terms of using grain as well, besides juice and different grades of molasses.
Okay. But there is no plan of adding new capacity, greenfield or anything of that sort, like one of our competitor in UP is going for a large capacity, converting the entire sugar into ethanol?
No, actually, if you see in the last 2 years, we've come actually from zero capacity to over 350 KL per day. And
right.
As I mentioned earlier, we're looking at this multi-feed option and some debottlenecking at this point of time.
And how much capacity incrementally it could add in terms of KLPD?
Currently, we've expanded our capacity by 20 KLPD.
That's a very small one, actually, given your base.
But going forward, when you multi-feed it, and we are still studying it, the multi-feed and the debottlenecking. There will be something in the pipeline, but we can't be precise about it as yet.
Sure, sir. This is really helpful, sir. Thank you so much. Wish you all the best.
Thank you.
The next question is from the line of Pratik Kumar from Antique Stock Broking. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Good afternoon. Thanks for the opportunity. I just joined the call a bit late. Just wanted to check what is the utilization now versus like what we had in Q3. If you have already answered this question.
Utilization of what?
For caustic, sorry.
Caustic chlorine is now running at about 80% capacity utilization at our Kota factory and Gujarat factory.
Which is same as the Q3 number which we reported?
Yeah, same, yeah.
Okay. And sir, the chlorine realization, while we talked about it, it is positive. Has it moderated Q on Q in Q3?
See, these are commodities, so there will be ups and downs. Yes, there is some minor moderation, but they are in reasonable range.
Okay. And just one question on the competitor capacity. While we are still looking at in like couple of quarters in terms of expansion, has any other competition like restarted on this expansion in your view, or they are looking at it?
There were a couple of plants which I think were doing an expansion of the caustic soda, but I think no one is looking at putting up new capacity right now. If there are some which are on the way, then they will get commissioned in the next couple of quarters. That's possible. But I don't think anyone is going to look at, anyone is looking at any greenfield or brownfield right now.
Right. Thanks, and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rohan Gupta from Edelweiss. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, sir. Good afternoon. Sir, one question is on our capex plans. So earlier, I think that when we were looking at further capex in the downstream chemicals, we were looking at and contemplating multiple options to where to put money. I think at that time we were also having and exploring the opportunities to invest in specialty chemical segment along with the chemical chlorine downstream derivatives. So that you have announced two products which ECH and hydrogen peroxide both still remains in the commodity side. Are you planning to look at more capex and further capex in a business or in a segment in specialty chemicals where we are not just remain on a mercy of price volatility or in a commodity and can change our business model? So is there any thought process, because as you said that by this year end you will already have almost debt-free balance sheet of just 0.02 debt equity. So you will have a significant cash flow generation from next year onward. Even the caustic soda capex has been pushed further. So are there opportunities that there will be more plans in CapEx which can be in a significantly different direction from the current scenario? That's it from my side, sir.
As we mentioned, that one of the projects we've initiated in the 1,000 crore CapEx is also putting up a product development and research and development center. Objective of that is to get into value-added products further down the line. So we are looking at epoxy resins. We're looking at other products which will add value to ECH also. So that is part of a work in progress. And in due course of time, we will definitely get into some value-added products down the line.
So any idea that maybe next 2 years where our maximum cash flows will be invested? I mean, this CapEx is already done now. So in FY22 and FY23 that...
It's too early to give any commitment right now.
That is the direction, but it's too early for a commitment.
Okay, so we are still not clear that where we are going to invest the cash flows which will be generating in next year, 22 and 23 probably.
Well, as we've said, 1,000 crores are going to be invested over the next 2 years in these projects itself. Plus, we have 425 crores investment going in a power plant, which will be commissioned by the Q4 of the financial year 21-22. So this will take up a large part of our CapEx.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thanks, sir. That's it from my side.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Anand Singh, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. I have 3 questions. Sir, first, with regard to our CapEx plan, you mentioned 425 crore is for power. Now, historically, we have seen, power has been captive, but of late, there have been instances where companies get independent power producer to build a plant in their facility and thereby their asset goes down. So the prime example of this is Tata Metallics, whereby they brought in an independent power producer to set up a power plant in their premises and they'll buy the power captively. So have we considered that kind of an option where we, moderate our CapEx on power and thereby, keep the balance sheet lighter?
We evaluated our investments across the board. In a chlor-alkali plant, 65% of the cost of production is power. Now, we principally would like to keep as much control over our major raw material as possible. We have the expertise. We have the quality of people. We have the wherewithal in our locations. So we've evaluated all these options. Even in sugar, this thing happened about 7-8 years ago, where people would come and say, okay, we'll run your power plant and we'll sell it to you at X price. But what happens is in these sort of situations, the company does not get the full benefit. And why do we end up giving a return to someone else who's going to put up the power plant in our own premises, which we are buying 100%? So from any principal point of view, unless you don't have the expertise or you're running short of capital, it can be either of these 2 reasons. But principally, we want to have control on our raw materials as much as we can.
Sure, sir. Sir, second question about our CapEx.
The cyclicality or the improvement in margins that the raw material costs of power also pass through to us if we keep it on with ourselves. That's part of our strategy of capturing all the value.
Sure. Sure, sir. I understand. Just in terms of our CapEx, with this 1,425 crore CapEx for next 2 years, can we assume that this will be like the ballpark CapEx, there won't be any incremental CapEx, or can there be any additional CapEx on top of this in the next 2 years?
My friend, we are a growing company. We are a forward-looking company. We will take decisions which are appropriate and the board will consider all alternatives. It's very difficult today to give a commitment saying we're not going to spend any more CapEx. I think that's not fair because our debt-raising capability is sound. If we have a good project, we want to look at something, we get a good acquisition opportunity, whatever. We are an open company looking at a forward-looking way and we are in business for the next 25 years. So we are going to look at all options and the board will take a decision at the appropriate time on any CapEx.
Yeah. And our balance sheet has the strength to invest substantially and cash flow.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah, sir.
Mr. Singh?
Yeah.
I think for any follow-up, request you to rejoin the queue, please. We have other participants waiting for their turn. Thank you. The next question is from the line of Saket Kapoor from Kapoor Company. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Sir,
Hi.
relating to this, yes, sir. Relating to the sugar segment as well as the fertilizer part of the story. Sir, in the sugar segment, I think so the WTO compliances would be applicable from 2022-23, and then this the subsidy being provided for export won't be applicable. So the steps which we are taking in terms of the distillery and country liquor will be the mitigating step, and more needs to be done in order to suffice us from the vagaries of the sugar cycle.
See,
Hello?
our whole effort is that you're right, from December 23, the WTO regulations come into force. So our whole effort is to divert as much sucrose as possible into ethanol and balance the production of sugar in India equivalent to consumption. So that, because our cane prices are much higher than the major exporting countries in the world, be it Australia, Thailand, Brazil, South Africa, etc. So the industry's direction is to increase the level of ethanol, and the government is also being very proactive on this front, where earlier on their 20% blend target was in 2030. They are bringing it forward, and hopefully the 20% blend target will be now 2025. So the whole effort is to increase ethanol going forward.
So, sir, we can conclude that the sugar segment, the fertilizer segment, both will be totally dependent on the government policy and won't be exactly the market-driven segments for sugar as well as fertilizer. These are the segments that will in continuous support of the government policies and will depend on the vagaries also of the government, incumbent government that would be there at that time, and these sectors will be subject to it.
Saket, the issue is, as long as the sugarcane price is determined by the government, there has to be some kind of support so that the cane price is paid. As I mentioned to you earlier, that the cane price in India is much higher than the major exporting country, the cane prices of the major exporting countries. So the cane price is artificially high today, and in spite of there being cane arrears, the cane farmers are planting more cane, because cane is giving much better returns to the farmers compared to any other crop cycle in India, particularly in UP, Karnataka, Maharashtra, etc. So in order to pay the cane price, there has to be some kind of a support.
Right, sir. Right, sir. And for the fertilizer segment, sir, fertilizer and the seed part, sir, how do we justify our capital allocation for policy there, as the returns doesn't match the profile of the company in the chemical segment? So what is our strategy for going forward for the fertilizer segment and the seed part also, sir?
I'll tell you on the fertilizers. We set up the fertilizer plant in 1969. So now it's over 50 years old, and we have moved on a particular policy government brought in 1972. And that's how the subsidy to the farmer is given through the fertilizer industry. Our philosophy has been that we are not expanding the plant. We are making sure it runs efficiently, runs well, and is safe. The government now has allocated 65,000 crores in the last month or two as additional outflow to fertilizer companies whose outstandings, as it is, were very high. So considering this position, yes, we are banking on the government because it's a subsidized product to the farmer. There's no alternative. But that's why urea manufacturing is the only thing we do. As you are aware, we used to do trading in DAP. We used to do trading in SSP, in MOP. We have stopped all that trading, because we are banking on the government, and the government subsidy is so low, our returns are very low, our capital was tied up. So we've stopped all that, and we are now running only the urea plant. And if this money flows through, and this comes in, then the returns are quite satisfactory.
Right. And what are the receivables on the urea front? As of now, you told a sufficient fund has been released. So what are the
So the release of funds have been announced by the government of 65,000 crores for payment to fertilizer companies. I think our outstanding from the government in terms of our Fertilizer Industry Coordination Committee, FICC outstandings, Amit, would be how much?
As of 31st December, it's 624 crores.
How much?
24.
624
crores.
624 crores.
Okay, and this entire amount we will be receiving any ballpark period by which the same will be reduced, and it is also on a cycle basis, I think so. The more we will produce going forward, the receivables will go up accordingly.
So this is what we have sold. So this outstanding of 624 is what we have sold. So this we hope
Correct,
should get liquidated in the next 2 months. And then probably we should be on a regular bill, as you submit you submit your bill. What's being said is that we should be almost on a monthly basis because the next provision in the budget, we'll know it in February. So likely to get the full, allocation for the next year also.
Right.
And the last outstandings would have been cleared.
Right. And lastly, on this Hariyali Kisan Bazaar part, sir, we were about to restructure the entire thing, and this petrol pump and all which were there getting sold off and the leases being cleared. What is the status on the same, sir?
Amit, बताइए.
So see, we are continuously selling down the properties, right? So though it is a little slow process, but now we have less than 30 properties left with us. And I think about 15, 16 petrol pumps are left. So we should liquidate them over a period of next 1 to 2 years.
So seems like we lost the line for the current participant. We move to the next question from the line of Rohit Nagraj from Sunidhi Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the follow-up. Just a strategy-related question. The earlier participant also cited about the same. So we have restructured few of our businesses which were probably not relevant or not making money for us. And now that we have announced a sizable capex for chemicals business, after a couple of years, the chemical segment itself will account for more than 50% of our top line with better margins and relatively better visibility in terms of earnings. So is there any thought of separating the chemicals business from the agri-related business? And if not, whether we will be thinking of the same in future once this capex is being done or in process? Thank you.
This is a strategic direction. We keep debating pros and cons. But we have not taken any view on this of separating the company or separating the businesses or splitting up the company. We feel that as of now, we want to continue the way we are.
Okay, no worries. Thank you, sir. And that's okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
A couple of points.
The next question is from the line of Karthik from Unifi Capital. Please go ahead.
So thank you for the follow-up. So just wanted to understand, you mentioned the export volume that will flow into the subsequent quarters. So given the run rate of 6 lakh quintal that we usually observe as for each quarter, can we expect at least 50% of last quarter to flow into this quarter?
Not 6 lakh quintal. You're talking about sugar, is it?
Yeah, from the sugar export volumes.
So, as I mentioned earlier, the export policy was announced in December 2020, and we done our contracts in January. So we will be exporting our entire quantity in the next 3-4 months, whatever we have contracted.
Okay, so roughly we have contracted of around 12 lakh quintals?
12.5.
And that will be done in the next 3-4 months?
Yeah.
Sure, sir. And just wanted to understand, sir, just a normal trend in urea, because Q4 as a seasonal quarter, the farm solution, biocide, everything is quite weak. But how are we able to sustain the urea? I mean, what's the business model there? We able to sustain our revenues across?
See, KK, you want to answer that?
Sorry, I didn't understand question. This the last quarter, the consumption continues right till February end. So that's the season for urea consumption.
So sorry if I may just repeat my question. If you see Q4 for agri as such, for farm solution and bioseed is a weak quarter we see from the revenue. But urea has been able to sustain across the last 2-3 years in Q4. So what's the business model there? How come urea as a segment been able to survive the revenue?
Seeds come into the play in the beginning of the quarter, so that's when you do the sowing. So thereafter the fertilizers come in, they're able to apply fertilizers right through the quarter. So that's how it gets sustained through the entire Q4, Q3 and Q4. In bioseed we have products which are largely in the Kharif season, and we don't have significant products for the Rabi season.
And regarding farm solutions, sir, is it the same logic as bioseed?
Should be largely, yes.
They are all applied at different points in time in the farming cycle.
Okay. Sure, sir. And just a quick question on the capex, sir. You mentioned the ECH plant would be of high technology. So is it going to be biotechnology based? Because we know one of our competitors recently went for a renewable ECH plant. So could you maybe mention more on the technology?
I think that is still something which we are debating. We are talking to technology suppliers across the world, and we'll take a call. We've not taken a decision yet on which technology we are going to be using.
Yeah, if your question is based on glycerine, which is it's unlike earlier plants which used to be based on hydrogen peroxide or polypropylene oxidation processes. This is a glycerine technology, which is a relatively new technology, and you can call it green because glycerine comes out of the bio products also.
So, and the hydrogen peroxide, what concentration are we going to? Because I believe there's a 50% and 100% concentration.
It will largely be the 50%, but some portion of it, because that's a very small consumption, the higher concentration, or largely the lower concentration ones. 2-3 grades together.
Sure. And so what are the timelines exactly are we looking into these? I mean, you mentioned it's around 24 months, but is there a different timeline to the commissioning of these plants, or will it all be simultaneous?
See, the plan is to get into implementation as the board has approved, and the estimate now it will be between 20 to 24 months between that. So as each one comes up, it will be commissioned as soon as possible.
Sure, sir. Thank you for taking my question.
Okay.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question for today. I now hand the conference over to the management for closing comments.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for your participation in our Q3 and 9-month financial year 21 earnings conference call. We have outlined the strategic direction and the steps being pursued for the same. As we achieve our milestones through these initiatives, we are confident of sustained overall growth in operating and financial performance, underlined by strong businesses, enhanced cost competitiveness, multiple earning streams, and stronger balance sheet. Our strong balance sheet, along with a strong organization, allows us to keep investing in growth. We are confident of delivering sustained top-line and bottom-line growth over the medium term across our businesses. Thank you once again. Stay safe and stay healthy. Goodbye.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of DCM Shriram Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you all for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.